Hey guys, Dr. Morse, injury experts. Baker has been really struggling over the past month or so. And we just saw the Rams look like definitely the best team in the NFC, especially after the Eagles lost a 21-point lead to the Cowboys, and then the Cowboys finished them off. My Patriots scared the hell out of me today, suffered a couple potential big injuries on the offensive line, but managed to pull it out. Let's talk about some injuries from week 12 heading into Thanksgiving week. It is just past midnight here on the East Coast, and there are a fair share of injuries, but nothing super crazy. But it's a short week for many teams, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. Baker Mayfield, as mentioned, did not return after halftime. We saw Teddy Bridgewater come into the game and try, but just didn't really do a whole lot. Left shoulder injury for Baker, likely an AC sprain. These are graded in types, type 1, type 2, type 3, all the way up to type 6. Type 1, not overly concerning. Type 2, more concerning. Type 3, potentially out a month longer. Now, thankfully, this is a non-throwing shoulder, but it's still important. As we saw with Aaron Rodgers and his wrist, you still need the left hand even if you are a right-handed quarterback. With that being said, there's a decent chance this is a type 1 or a type 2, and he potentially might be able to play next week. He is that type of player. He will pretty much play through anything. This game was out of hand, so it didn't really matter. But he hasn't been playing very well. He did get Chris Godwin back tonight. Mike Evans should be back in a couple weeks. Emeka Egbuka didn't really do anything until late in the fourth quarter when it was out of hand. T. Higgins unfortunately suffered a concussion against the Patriots today after he landed and his head smashed onto the turf. But the issue with this is not just, hey, can he clear the concussion protocol by week 13? Because they play on Thursday night against the Rams, there's not enough days to clear the protocol. He will be out Thursday night, assuming the concussion is confirmed, which he looked like he was unconscious, so he's definitely going to be confirmed. Let's hope it's not more than one game. To my knowledge, this is only his second concussion to date. Rashee Rice had a poor game at the beginning and then eventually smashed late in the day. But what we did see really was impressive. But remember, there's a possibility he tweaked his hamstring late in the game. From what I could tell, he didn't have any issues at all. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Because remember, most of the hamstrings and the soft tissue injuries finish by week 7, 8, 9. But he didn't start really until week 8. So that gives him a much longer window. Now, Puka Nacua had a regular game for him. Had a mild tweak to it. I believe it was his left MCL. Only missed a couple plays and came back. And I think it'll be fine, but it's worth mentioning. Alvin Kamara, on the other hand, suffered a right knee injury to his MCL. That was already confirmed. And he could potentially miss 1 to 2 weeks, up to potentially season ending because of the timing of this. Now, he's had at least 3, if not 4 of these on the opposite knee. I've never seen one confirmed on his right knee. The question becomes, is there any damage to the meniscus, and how is the ACL? They said that it's MCL, that usually means, and it's MRI confirmed, that usually means the ACL is okay. They didn't say anything about meniscus. That usually does not mean there's no meniscus issue, just means they didn't talk about it. So at the minimum, he's out 1 to 2 weeks, and even then, maybe possibly a little bit longer. Now, Devin Neal is going to be the go-to guy. He did decent work in the receiving game, but just not a whole lot in rushing, but the game was out of hand by then anyway. Ashton Jeanty actually had a pretty good game. He suffered what appeared to be a left ankle sprain. Potentially could have been significantly worse. I did a video on this if you want to see it. And I think he got lucky. Decent chance he plays next week. I thought he came back into the game, but maybe there's a possibility that was his last drive. There was only one more drive after that before the end of the game. Now, Joe Flacco ended up suffering a dislocated finger on his throwing hand, but it was actually his index finger And he got lucky because he's predominantly a middle finger thrower. That's why he was able to return. Now, this is semi-convenient because Joe Burrow is expected to return in 4 days. So we may hand the baton off from Joe Flacco to Joe Burrow. But in general, this would not have been overly concerning. If Flacco needed to play in 4 days, he probably would have. As far as DK Metcalf, he suffered what looks like a high ankle sprain based on the video, but I could tell he left the game, and I'm pretty sure he returned. Didn't do a whole lot in the game, and that may have been Mason Rudolph. That may have been the ankle. We don't know. Now, he should get Aaron Rodgers back next week, but as we know with these injuries, they're very frustrating. Not so much for straight line running, but for cutting and changing directions. So we'll have to see how he does, and if this ends up being super mild and okay, or if this ends up being potentially concerning. Jacoby Brissett left the game briefly with a left shoulder injury. I didn't see the injury, probably an AC sprain if I were to guess. And he ended up coming back into the game and making it a game, making Michael Wilson very relevant and Trey McBride having a ridiculous game. Both of them actually did, but it came up a little short. But in general, he's looked much better than Kyler Murray has, and I expect him to be fine for next week. The final injury I did not see. I could not find any video on. It is Michael Mayer, and he suffered an ankle injury, and they pretty much immediately ruled him out. So that is not the best thing. Usually that means that's either a high ankle or a significant lateral ankle or a fracture. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. But there's a possibility he plays next week. But usually when they roll him out that quickly, maybe it was the score, it may be bigger. With that being said, Chip Kelly is no longer there. He made $500,000 a week to coach the Raiders, and now he is gone. And we will see him basically be replaced, and hopefully they get the ball more to Bowers and Jeanty. But there should be a changing of the guard after losing to a pretty good performance by Shedeur Sanders, but they looked awful, by far the worst team in the NFL, which is unfortunate because the Tennessee Titans technically have a worse record. With that being said, it'll be interesting to see how this week plays out. That's your Week 12 injury wrap-up. Heading into Thanksgiving, I will do an earlier video than normal because of the multiple games on Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. Best of luck. Hope you won your matchups and your bets.